Well, good morning, everybody. And welcome back to the Trig Podcast with Joey and Gosa TV on this beautiful Wednesday morning. Almost noontime here, 11 a.m. It's 74 degrees here in the LA area, Long Beach, California. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to this episode. I have a few stories to tell you, and also I want to talk about music and worship and future plans and all these fun, exciting things. But before we get into all that, how are you doing? Leave me a comment below. Let me know, how are you today? How is your morning going so far? Are you wrapping up your day? Are you just waking up? These days, it seems like 12 noon is when a lot of people wake up. And life continues down this weird path. 2020, open the eyes of my heart, Lord. He indeed is opening our eyes to God. I think most of us feel blind to knowing what's going to happen, when is this going to be over, what's the future hold, when are things going to go back to whatever normal means. And so, but one thing I'm certain of is that God is with us, and that He wants us to really to wake up to Him. In what way? I don't know exactly what that is to you. I know I have a few ways that I've already noticed that He's trying to get my attention. You know, areas in my life where He's knocking on my door to say, open your eyes, son, open your eyes to me, and close your eyes to what you see around you or to what you want, but open your eyes to me. And I wonder what God is asking you to see, maybe to not see, to close your eyes to fear, anger, frustration, and maybe overworking, exhaustion, trusting in yourself. And what is He asking you to open your eyes to? So welcome back. Thank you for being here. And as I always say, share this broadcast with your friends, so that, because you never know if there's one person out there that may need this word of encouragement this day. And that's why we're here, to spread the love of Jesus, to be light to the darkness. So first, I have a few stories to tell you, and then I'll get into kind of what I want to talk to you about in terms of music and worship and future plans. So yesterday, I was doing a bunch of work, and while I was working on all these different things, I was listening to some great worship music, and then I was walking out into the parking lot there at our church, and I bumped into a woman from the neighborhood that was just kind of hanging out. And so we got talking a little bit, and I said to her kind of who I was and just greeted her. And she said, "Oh, thank you. Nice to meet you." And then her husband walked across the street. His name is Curtis. I forget her name. Sal, maybe, something like that. And then so Curtis walked across the street, and he came and said hello. And both of us wearing our mask and all this weird stuff, these days. I was about to get in my car, and then I told him the same thing, that I was a pastor of the church. And he said, "Oh, we've lived here 20 years, and we had never met anyone from the church." I said, "Oh, well, I'm glad that we're meeting now." I said, "Hey, you're welcome to come." And I was just telling your wife, I said, how thankful I am that she's here and enjoying the parking lot and all these things. He said, "Oh, thank you. We go to the church down the street." Oh, I said, "Oh, great. Oh, I know that great church, pastor there. I know him. He's a good friend." Oh, she said, "Oh, thank you." And he told me that he's a part of their prayer ministry, that every morning before each live service, it's all online, that they get together, he and a group, to pray before each online internet service. I thought, wow. And he just got really excited about prayer. And he said, "Oh, look at the hairs on my arms," he said, because he was just really feeling the presence of God. And then I was telling him about our beautiful community. And he said, "I want to come by and just say hello." I said, "Of course." I said, "Well, we're online right now, and just like everyone else. And he said, oh yeah, so are we, and blah, blah, blah. So it was a good moment. But then as I was leaving, he said, you have a great opportunity here in this parking lot. I said, oh, tell me. He said, you can do concerts here at night and play music for people, because people, he said, really need a lot of hope these days. They need Jesus. They need prayer. They need encouragement, and music is a great way to do that. And I thought, interesting. I had just heard that a couple of days ago. So that happened, yesterday, right? So last week, I have another friend, good friend, and he and I met a few times last month, and we were playing some songs together. He plays music, and he was like, man, you really have an amazing gift, Trig, and your songs, all these nice things. And so I just thought, okay, that's nice. And I didn't really think much of it. That was like a few months ago. And then last week, the same friend said, Trig, I think you really need to. He was at this parking lot event where there was a worship night happening. The band of the church, I think, where he was at visiting, was doing a parking lot worship night. And there were people, actually it wasn't at night, it was like on a Saturday morning, and there were food trucks and people from the church and the community that were there sitting on chairs with a mask, and I think some in cars, that kind of thing. And so he said, man, with your talent, and he was just very kind. He said, you really should sing the songs that God's given you, and sing songs to God and your songs that you've written. And I just stored it in my heart. And then what happened yesterday with Curtis, I thought, wow, sometimes God begins to get a hold of you. So now, before that, though, before my time with Curtis, another thing that was really amazing happened. Another amazing thing happened. When I was working on a few projects, I was walking back and forth a lot and just listening to worship music and thinking a lot. And I began to feel really depressed. I can just down on a few things that I've been really thinking about a lot. And people tell me I have no reason to be sad, and I don't. But if you ever have dealt with sadness, and sometimes it hits you. So I began to tell God all the things that I was failing at. That's the thing that I struggle with the most, how Satan gets a hold of me, is by listing all of the things that I'm just not very good at. And so as I was going through my laundry list and my pity party, God talked to me instead of me talking to him, and he said, stop. And how did he talk to me? Just a strong voice, things that I have read in the Bible, things that God has tried to tell me before, but for some reason I was open to it. And he said, you are my beloved son, in whom, here's a key part for me, I am well pleased. You're my beloved son, in whom I am well pleased. In other words, God was telling me, David, son of mine, not only do I love you, but I am happy with you. And see, that's a very powerful thing for me. I began to cry over and over again. I had to stop all my work. So I was going back and forth, picking up all these heavy things. And I had to sit down for like 30 minutes just to receive, to feel, to thank God for what he was telling me. See, as you know, I had a beautiful father. I still do. He's in heaven. But I grew up without my beautiful father, who taught me how to sing, how to love, how to play the guitar. I mean, he really, to this day, he's my hero. Now he's with Jesus. But because of that time away from him, since I was maybe 10, 11, I've longed to know from a father that I am doing well. That I am doing well. This is very important for, I think maybe it's just a male thing, or just, who knows, maybe it's just for all of us, to hear from our parental figures that we are doing well, that we're not failing, that we're not screwing this up or messing that up, or it's not because of you that this is a mess. Those are the messages that I hear in the absence of hearing the truth. And not a truth based on results, but a truth based on belonging. And so in the absence of that, for many years, I have needed to hear, and I have longed to hear from a father those words, son, I am so happy with you. But in the absence of that, I've then tried to just do so much to make myself feel like I am good enough, to maybe have other people tell me that I am good enough. And what happens when you pursue that? It never comes, right? It doesn't matter what people say or not say. It's never enough because the emptiness is within. You need to hear that from within you, from a father or from God. And so when I heard yesterday, and I have read that passage, I think that's in Matthew 6, I think Mark 2. I have read this passage, that passage where Jesus hears from the Father when he's getting baptized, that I am well pleased with my son. Believe in him, trust in him, do what he says. That's what the Father talking to the Son. And then the Holy Spirit is there, and this act of obedience called baptism. You know the scene. I'm going to actually speak on this on Sunday. So if you know someone or you yourself struggle with not knowing if you're doing the right thing and feeling aimless or feeling that you're never sure of yourself, then Sunday is for you. Or if you know someone, if you have a son or a daughter, I especially want to speak to the young men, but really I think this is universal for all of us. I especially want to encourage you to tune in on Sunday, or actually not this Sunday, but the following Sunday I'm going to be talking about. So July the 19th, so not this Sunday, but the next Sunday, I'll be talking about that particular passage. But as I heard God tell me that he is pleased with me, it just, as I said, moved me so deeply. It touched my soul in such a powerful way that when I heard Curtis say, hey, this parking lot is perfect. And then I thought about, speaking of perfect, how that parking lot, if you're a part of our community, of course you know this, is really a perfect parking lot. Not only is it clean and spacious, but it has lights that are LED and energy conscious, and there are all these places to plug jumpers and gear and stages and amps and keyboards and microphones, because our amazing volunteer team that we have, and especially these two beautiful men, have worked so hard with the contributions of our community to pay and to purchase and to make that parking lot just really a dream come true. I mean, that parking lot, I would put it up against Staples Center. It is just beautiful. All it needs is a stage and people, and boom, we're gone. And so I thought of all these things, and I had just heard the message from God saying, I am well pleased. See, when we focus on all the things that we're not doing, or all the failures, or all of the blame, there are three major obstacles that each of us face. And we face all three, but there's one that's tailor-made for you. Fear, shame, anger. Fear, shame, and anger. And as I said, we all have all three, but there's one that you deal with the most, 9 out of 10 times. And it goes back to, who knows, trauma, sin, personality, things that may have happened in your childhood. And for my case, it was going through a war and being apart from my parents. So for me, shame is my greatest obstacle, is what Satan uses all the time to destroy me. So when we give into that, so let's say for you it's fear. When you're living in fear, it blocks your gifts. It blocks that blessing, that power, that calling that's on your life. And so right now, many people, rightly so you can say, are being damaged, are being just destroyed by fear. And without a doubt, that's satanic. Satan, who's a prince of the air, is using the news and Facebook and YouTube and whatever news you watch on TV or online to fill you with fear, which then blocks your natural gifts. For you, maybe it's not fear, it's anger. So whenever you, same thing, you tune into this or you think of that, or something happens to you at school or at work or at the local clinic, and it infuriates you, and you are now in that anger, it blocks your true gifts from coming out. I mean, we all know this. And so for me, when I'm making a list, as I was doing, of all the failures, and I'm not talking about like moral failures, failures, especially in church, always sounds like, I'm just talking about work, like things that I just don't think I'm very good at. I'm talking about that kind of stuff. And my list of that is long, because I go back, how it is, right? When we give in to that demon, it's a demon, it's a demonic influence. We go back, right? Not just today, but years ago. And so we make that list long and furious. And so when I give in to that shame, to that sense of failure, which is the same thing, shame, worthlessness, there are different words that people use. A lot of people will say, I don't feel worthy. It's the same thing. Worth, shame, failure. There's a whole thing that I study in terms of just temperament and how we all deal with things. But basically, I guess just to briefly go through it, compassionate types, at the end of the day, they deal with shame. That they can't love people enough to receive love. And so they feel like, maybe I'm just not worthy of love. Others, they work so hard, and this is what I do. They are always wanting to be the best at everything. But at the end of the day, it's shame they're trying to overcome or cover up through not compassion, but through achievement or success or fame, to cover up that feeling of not being worthy of being a good person, to not believing that they're really good without doing a bunch of things. And others, they are the people that really strive to be unique and very much of an independent person, to not depend on anyone, to be very different, to not blend in with the masses. But that pursuit of wanting to be unique and different really is covering up this sense that there's something missing in them, that they're innately broken, or they're like missing a leg or missing an eye. I mean, it's really like a big, serious thing. They feel like they're inadequate, even though they want to be so unique. And so all that is shame. It's not fear, it's not anger. I mean, those things are there as well. But at the end of the day, it's feeling unworthy, feeling shame, feeling of I'm not good enough. And so when I am in that space, then it blocks all of our talents. And for me, it blocks my love and my desire to serve, or not my desire, but it blocks love, it blocks joy, it blocks all the things that are natural to me. It blocks music. And so back to the topic here at hand, God in this crazy year is opening the eyes of my heart to worship. So let me say it again. So God in this year, like no other in our lifetime, is opening the eyes of my heart to worship. First, to being the beloved. And it's not really about being beloved. I feel loved by God, but to being good enough. I think that's really the phrase. I've heard from God more than ever the last just few days. David, estoy feliz con vos. Son, David, you are more than enough for me. You are more than enough. I am happy with you. I am well pleased with you. Hey, everyone, listen to him because he's my son. Excuse me. And as I've been hearing that message reverberate and ring true, excuse me, I'm going to cough. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Excuse me. So as I've been hearing that message, then worship has become true again. I don't mean true. I mean, it's come out again. There's this renewal that's happening in my soul with music and with worship. Now, some people may say, well, you've always loved music. It's true. But let me tell you a little story. Maybe you can relate to some of this. I tell you these things not to focus on me, but hopefully to be someone you can relate to in your own life with how God may be working in you this year of open the eyes of my heart, Lord. So 10 years ago, well, I've always loved music since I was 5. My dad taught me how to play the guitar and how to sing when I was 5, 6 years old. So I've always had a guitar in my hand. I joke that I was born with a guitar in my hand, a Bible in my other hand, and maybe a microphone. And I've always loved performing, singing, playing. Excuse the lawn guy out there. I've always loved singing to Jesus. I've never wanted fame, money, glory, any sort of acknowledgement that's come my way over the years has been not only unmerited, but unwanted. I've never pursued success. I often see younger musicians that are very talented serving God, and I think, if I had been more ambitious, which I just never am, I've never have been ambitious, I would be like, I don't know, the Bethels or whoever the popular worship leaders are of the day, or like a John Mayer or like a Dave Matthews Band. These non-Christians per se, very popular and very successful musicians, because I've always loved to perform and to be the best in singing and writing music and in learning every instrument and all that stuff. But I just, to this day, I don't have that ambition to be famous. I've, in my weak moments, I have thought that's what I wanted, but when I'm in my strength, filled with the Spirit of God, I have no need for any of that. So for most of my life, I played music, my own songs, worship songs. I've written hundreds of worship songs. I just wrote one last night. I've recorded records. I've toured my worship CD that I recorded in 2013 in different states, in different cities, in different venues, small, nothing huge, of course, but I've had many bands that I've played with. I've had the joy of playing with amazing musicians. Now my own son, our beautiful boy, he's in my band, and we have a few musicians that I'm working with right now to record my current record out December 2020. So it won't be a Christmas album, although maybe I'll throw a Christmas carol or two. And so look for that this December, Spotify and all the rest. But so I did that for most of my life. And then about 10 years ago, I hung up my sneakers, as they say. I vowed before God and before man and before myself to never, ever play music again. Ever. I had vowed to never play music, to never do church, worship, pastoring, none of that, ever again. For many reasons, 8, 9 years ago. And I was serious. And for the next few years, I worked hard to never set foot in a church, much less with a guitar, much less worship, any of that ever again. And that's pretty much lasted, not so much in terms of church. God gave me a heart once again for his church and to love people and to, for his word. I mean, I think the love for his word never wavered, nor my faith in Jesus. That was what kept me going. But music, especially, and doing music in the church or really anywhere, was just gone. And then a few years ago, God began to renew that in me. But it was just kind of like, well, we'll just see. I was just more doing it to help or to just be available. And people would encourage me tremendously. I even had a couple of people that really just kind of like took me aside and said, hey, you need to do this. This is you. I had other people that didn't even know that I played music, which was fine. In many ways, I tried to hide my love for music from myself, most of all, because, as I said, I just didn't want to do it. Long story short, in the last, really, this year with this craziness, without a doubt, I can honestly say that this opportunity, as I call it, and that's why I call it opportunity, not a crisis or that C word or any of that, has brought about an opening the eyes of my heart to worship. Not that I haven't played music before this, not that I haven't led worship even in previous years. Of course, I've been playing music for, as I said, pretty much every week for the last, 10 years in some way or another. But my heart, see, it's a difference between doing something and loving something. My heart is being renewed in such a powerful way in the last, I would say, really the last few weeks, the last few months. And it's mostly come through worship in Español, Spanish worship, which is, of course, the worship that I grew up with, meaning my first 10 years. From 10 on, it was mostly what we would call contemporary Christian music, but from 0 to 10, it was all Spanish worship. The old hymns and the old coritos, and if you are a Spanish speaker, you know what I'm talking about. And so, but the last few years, the last few weeks, last few months, God has been renewing my songwriting ability, or not ability, but just that just it's been coming out again. I've been writing songs left and right, and not just making beats as you've seen me do, but just with my guitar. And then the last few weeks, I've been going on live here, playing a lot of it worship songs in Spanish, because there's something so personal about singing in your own language. And again, even though I didn't grow up singing a lot of Spanish songs, it's I had a friend a few years ago that he's a beautiful young man who loves Spanish worship, and I told him this. He taught me how to worship in Spanish once again. Beautiful young man. And so through all of these things, and even just watching some guys online the last few days, Alex Campos and Jesus Romero and Marcos Barrientos, and of course Marcos Witt and some of these old timers, all of these men of God have been really influencing me the last few weeks, last few months, to renew my heart once again for worship, and to use whatever skills and talents God has given me to in any ways to commemorate or to honor my father's legacy. He recorded records for Jesus. He sang first tenor in his quartet. He sang with his brother and his cousin. I have his record literally right now on my piano. And every time I'm sitting out there in my other studio recording, I look over to the left and there he is. Sorry for the noise back there. It was pretty loud. I may have to go here soon because of the noise. But all of this to say that God is renewing that heart, and future plans are to, first of all, to trust in God. I don't have any plans outside of trusting in God, and I believe that that's the best place for me to be. But second is, I'm longing, and I'm maybe just simply expecting or waiting on God for him to bring around a group of people, especially I've been praying for men, a group of men, especially maybe strong men, who will partner around me as ministers of the gospel. I don't mean they have to be pastors. I just mean men who really believe in the gospel of Jesus Christ, and who believe in the message of Jesus, and who support the ministry that God's given me, and who want to come alongside of me, men and women, of course, to come alongside of me and what God's may want to do through me in music and worship, to put on, monthly, quarterly worship nights of my songs of worship in that parking lot, so that the community around our church can hear the good news of Jesus Christ. Oh man. So that Curtis, who was just I was talking to yesterday, and his wife was there in our parking lot just enjoying a wonderful afternoon stroll, can hear, and they go to church obviously, but his friends, his family, and thousands of people just like Curtis and his wife can hear the good news of Jesus Christ through whatever he wants to do through me, in music, in worship, and in making this whole time of such depression and sadness and exhaustion and confusion, and bring hope to this season that we're going through, to bring the light of God to everyone around us, to bring the hope of Jesus to anyone who would want to hear, to bring the love of God to people, young and old, en español, en inglés, people of all ages, of all nationalities, and to be the answer that people are longing for right now. Like my friend said, we may never again have such a captive audience. We may never again have such a captive audience. And I think he's right. As soon as this thing is over, whenever, Lord, I mean, it might be, I don't know, January, next summer, I don't know. People are going to be onto their next thing, right? Back to their parties and back to work and we may never again be able to be here, and you, whether it's one person or 0 or 3 or whoever, and actually be listening to these things that God is telling us. We may never be here again because life, it just gets busy, right? And so the time, I don't know when the time is. As I said, this morning I spent a couple hours praying with Rochelle about all this stuff. And our prayer was that God would surround us with a group of powerful men and women who would join us in this effort to bring the hope of Jesus to the lost, to those that are hopeless, to those who need encouragement through my music, through what God has given this humble man in this voice, in my hands, in my mind, through that guitar, to bring hope to people and to be able to sing the songs that he's been giving me. He's been giving me, as I said, hundreds of songs over the last, 10 years. Songs that no one has ever heard except my kids and my wife. And maybe I do a few here and there online. I have so many songs that have come from my own pain, from my own pursuit of God, from his voice talking to me, bringing healing to me. And I know that they are meant to be heard by other people. I am sure of that just as God has used these songs to heal me, he will use them to heal you. And what better time than now to be healed by our loving Jesus? For us as people of God to worship him in spirit and in truth, to be in the parking lot of our own church building, facility right outside there, with this amazing space that we have, this beautiful area that we have, and to have us out there being a light through music that is so, that doesn't care about race or color or politics, right? Music, especially that is from heaven. And guess what? We're going to have the best sound system ever. We're not going to just get out there and put on our Radio Shack radio. We're going to have some quality production, because there's nothing like hearing music that is just beautifully produced, that is just done so well. And that's the way I think, when I produce music here in my studio or live, or when I sing it here or in person, I work so hard. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, but I'm trying to always grow in that, to make the music, to make the songs that I write, the arrangement, the way the instruments work together, the way you hear it out there. Daisy's back there probably barking at the lawn guy. The way that you hear it, the way that the listener receives it, to have reverb. Reverb is that little echo. You know how you go to a concert or a show, and you have a little bit of echo in the vocals, the vocalist microphone, and you're like, I feel like I'm at a concert. It's so beautiful. It sounds so awesome. and then a little bit of delay. And maybe if it's in the afternoon, I don't know if we're going to have food trucks, or if it's in the evening, I don't know. My dream would be to do it in the afternoon and to have those, those lights that millennials use that are like those big Edison bulbs, to hang those and to make it really into like, that's why I love millennials. You know how they create such a beautiful space, like weddings when they get married, everything is so beautifully done. To have that kind of Instagram look, if you want to call it that, to have the parking lot look like an Instagram picture, and then to have music that is just well rehearsed, well done, genuine, and to have just a night of music where I can offer you what God's given me in the songs that he's given me in Spanish and English, in both languages. Maybe we'll do, 1 hour in Spanish, 1 in English. I don't know exactly. As I said, right now, we're just praying for God to coalesce a group of people. Excuse Daisy, she's back there. A group of people that would long to see this happen, that really believe in the mission of using music and using these tools and production and to create a beautiful Instagram experience so that young and old, black and white, I don't care who it is, if you are thirsty, come. All who are thirsty, says Isaiah 55, all who are weak, come to the fountain, and to sing not only the songs that I've written, but also worship songs. Renuévame, Señor Jesús. And so many beautiful songs that have been written in Spanish and English. And to see this maybe, I don't know, quarterly, monthly, I don't know exactly. And to have all the social distancing and all that stuff that is so annoying, but we can't let that keep us from bringing the light of Jesus to the public. And I don't want to be hiding anymore inside a church building, inside a house, inside an office. I don't want to be just tuning my guitars just to me, or playing my songs just to my wife or to our kids or to a few people here online. I think all these things that God is bringing together in my life, etc., are for a purpose, and that's for his kingdom. It's for his purpose. It's to his glory. It's for his name. It's so that the name of Jesus would be lifted up, and that he would use humble servants like you and me. And so we need, I'm specifically praying. I'm specifically praying, I'll tell you my list, first for a stage that someone out there has or can go rent for us, that won't cost us anything, that can be of the theatrical staging, the ones that they use in modern halls, in modern churches, in theatrical presentations. This is not anything difficult, but someone that knows how to make that happen. Then I'm praying for 2 or 3 men of God that are strong and that maybe are, definitely capable of just moving things and shaking things up and making things happen. I'm talking about setting up the stage, about knowing about production and how to mix live. And we're talking about professionals that would normally charge maybe $10,000 to do one show, that would do it for free. Because they believe in what God is doing in my life, but most of all in what God is doing in them. And that they believe that this is the method through which we need to be spreading the good news of Jesus Christ. So I'm praying specifically for people that know about staging, about mixing. And then I think a third person, and maybe this is a different gift, that know all about Instagram space. That this could be a man or a woman, perhaps it's a female, being that females have that magic touch. and to create that Instagram experience there in our parking lot. All I can think of are those Edison bulbs, But this person doesn't need me to tell them anything. They know exactly what to do. And that's really what I'm praying for, is people that I don't have to tell them anything, that they know exactly what to do. This is how they think. This is their life. It's like someone telling me, hey, you want to play guitar. No one has to show me how to play the guitar or even tell me what a guitar is, right? I want those same kind of people, 2 or 3 people around me that know like the back of their hands about sound design, about space, about staging. And then maybe a 4th person would be great to have that knows all about the actual program itself, how to make a program really flow, music, maybe have some videos that highlight the love of Jesus, maybe a movie, maybe a comedian, maybe something funny that would entertain people, all along still a more, heartfelt kind of night. But I don't foresee any sermon. This is not church per se. We're talking about a night of music under the stars, you could call it, where people would hear just beautifully done music that is from the heart, that is about Jesus, it's about God. And so someone who knows the flow of things, who can really put together an hour or 2 of really just good content that would be centered around music, but that would have other elements that would be very powerful. So those are the 3 or 4. And then we need hundreds of other people who can just move chairs and park cars, or I don't know, just help, tell people where the bathrooms are. You know how events are. We need everyone, all hands on deck. So we need, 3 or 4 of us at the center of it all, who can really kind of mind master this thing with different talents, and yet with one heart, committed to one vision. We can't have 3 visions, 4 visions, one vision, one method, one way. 3 or 4 of us, and then we need hundreds or 10 or 20 people that will work to make this possible. And then if God is in it, we do it again. Every month, every quarter, I don't know. Until God says, okay, that's the end. That's it. And so I don't know when. I don't have any. I'm just praying for a team. So if you are that person, leave me a comment below. Or if you know someone, talk to them, and or have them contact me, and let's talk about what God. I already had a few people. It's so exciting. We're remodeling our church, and I had a few people, just random people, say, hey, I want to help. I want to learn. Or I used to go there, and now I'm in my 20s or 30s. I was maybe there when I was a kid, and whatever I can do to help pick up trash or what. And so it's already happening. I think this remodel is going to hopefully kind of like shake the earth, shake the heavens, and get the earth moving in a positive direction. Don't we need positivity these days? Aren't you so tired of all the negative stuff and all the hopelessness and all the bad news that you hear everywhere? I know I am, man. Sometimes I feel so hopeless when I see and hear all this ugliness. Excuse Daisy the dog back there again. Aren't you just ready to experience positive news and to be a part of something beautiful that you can say, wow, I was a part of that? And then you can leave home with a few pictures, so you can post them on your Instagram, on your stories, or whatever it is. And then, that's what I long for. And, obviously we'll start small, but I must confess, I'm not one to just want to throw it together and Mickey Mouse it. I like to do things right. And I want it to be done for free. I want it to be I don't mean for free, but where people that are called will donate their time, will donate the stage, will donate the gear, will donate the speakers, whatever we need. And that's what we need. We need a group of people that say, I want to make this happen. I want to help you, David. I want to help you because I believe in what God can do. And I believe also in what God is doing through you. I think it has to be, at the end of the day, something personal where you and I connect as friends. You know, it's not just enough to just do it because, or just to simply work together, or just to, oh, well, you and I have to become one so that you and I can know each other and can hear our hearts and can connect at that heart level. And you may live here in the Long Beach area, you may live 30, 40 an hour away from here. It doesn't matter. Right now, these days, distance and all that, it doesn't matter. It's all irrelevant. All we have to do is just get on here and talk and email and text, and boom, here we are. And in 3 weeks, we can be together at a venue, in a parking lot. And so whoever you know, or if you are that person, leave me a comment below. Facebook message me, text me, Instagram me, wherever you're watching this, on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, my page, wherever. And I think that music is always going to be the way forward, what's going to conquer death and sin. You know, worship is powerful. I'll close with this. On Sunday, I spoke on Gideon. Gideon was a judge, actually, a leader of an army of God. And you know the story perhaps there in Judges 6 and 7. He wanted an army of 100,000 people so he can go and defeat the Midianites. But God said, no, bring it down. He's like, well, to how many? Like 90,000? You know, they have a big army over there. No, to 300 men, just like the movie. 300 against hundreds of thousands of enemies. Gideon is like, what are you doing, God? We're going to get killed. He said, no, you're not, because I am with you. And then he told him to pick up on his left hand a trumpet, which exemplifies worship. And in his other hand, basically to pick up the cross, a jar of clay with a fire, with a candle inside of it, the burning bush per se, the presence of God, worship, and the cross. And then Gideon went into the enemy's camp with 300 men, all carrying a trumpet and the cross in their hands. And they defeated the enemy in Jesus' name. And that's what we need right now. It's like Jericho, right? We need men and women, 300 men. We need 30, we need 3 to unite around a common heart, that we would become best of friends, that we would be one. And so it starts with prayer. So we need to start praying here in my house. If you are that person, bring your mask, whatever. We need to be praying in my backyard. I have a nice little setup back there with lights and little hammock and fire pit. I mean, it's super hot these days, but you know, we have just a place we need to just pray. We have a table with chairs. We need to just pray and have our hearts become one. Have our hearts become one, so that we can truly be singing. Yes, Fernando, greetings to you. That's right. Yeah, I love the Lord. Gracias, Fernando. Gracias. Gracias por el comentario. And to really come together, because I am convinced that it is music, it is the power of God through song that is going to defeat all the demonic stuff that's happening in this world. And so if you, wherever you are one of these men, one of these people, men and women, youth, children, we need anybody. We need everyone. Then leave me a comment. Let me know, because we need to start praying together, come together as one. You need to believe in what God is doing in me, in you, through us. And then in this vision to be a light. And to put it online, we need someone who's going to be an expert at live streaming. I can't do it because I'm going to be playing and singing my songs, but we need someone who can be an expert at live streaming, who can do a whole live stream show of the event and put it on Zoom and all the platforms, Periscope and Twitter and Instagram Live. Right now, we're on 7 platforms right now. And we need someone that's an expert at that and can make that happen. Again, for free, as a donation to the cause of Jesus Christ, and can really bring good news to people. You know, we have so many bad news, right? Every day we hear bad news. Every day the depression and the anxiety and the anger is so high. I feel it, you feel it. We need to spread good news, just like Gideon, to bring a trumpet and a jar of clay. Now, another way to describe a jar of clay is that's you and me. You know, in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, Paul says, he used that same story of Gideon, and he said, not only did Gideon use a jar of clay and a lamp inside of it, but now you and I, this earthly body that is sick, that gets exhausted, that gets depressed, that gets angry, it's a jar of clay that easily breaks. But when we break, the light of Jesus shines forward. It shines through. And so maybe you feel like you know there's not much left to you. Your hope is gone. Your energy is waning. Your belief, your hope is gone. Guess what? This is the very moment where you can shine bright for Jesus. If you let him lead you. Or you can let Satan come in and destroy your life. But I want to invite you to let Jesus shine through. If you feel weary, exhausted, depressed, you don't see any hope in this world or in this whole thing that's happening, whether it's the race stuff or the political stuff or whether it's the virus stuff, you are that jar of clay, right? That can easily break. Let Jesus be the light that comes out of your life. Let God be the light that comes out of the brokenness. Let him put the pieces back together of your life. Let God be the one who restores your brokenness, who puts together, who glues you back together again. All the mess of this year, maybe even of the last 3-4 years for you. For me, it's been 8-9 years of mess. Let God put your life back together so that he can shine through you and bring hope to everyone else, to your family, to your parents, to your kids, to your neighbors, to your cousins, your primos, your primas, your tios. Well, that's the message that I had for today, meaning the news that I had of what God is doing through my music. If you don't know much about my music, then you can just listen back on all the streams here on whatever platform you're watching, on Periscope, on Instagram Live, on YouTube, on Facebook, on my page, davidTrig.com, on my church page, wherever you can find my music and begin to just get familiar with what God has given me, the songs that I've written, the ways that he's using me en español, en inglés, en los dos idiomas. And if you feel connected wherever you are in the world, then come be a part of this. Come be a part of this movement of music that heals. This is a movement of music that heals. Music that heals. If you need music that heals, if you long for music that heals, if you are desperate for music that heals, then this is for you. Be a part of that. Leave me a comment below. Just simply say, just leave a 1 that says yes. I don't know how, I don't know what I can do, but count me in. Just leave a 1 in the comments below. And we will see this through in Jesus' name. Thanks so much for watching. Share this content with your friends. Hasta la próxima vez. See you next time.